Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how our new SLS script works in AMFG. So first of all, I'm going to show you what we can now configure regarding pricing for the script. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into production parameters and I'm going to go into my machines, and in my custom fields, I can now configure the following three parameters. Number one, the cost per build. Number two, the volumetric maximum. And what this is, it's the maximum safe thermal packing density percentage. And so in this case, I've put it as 5 to represent 5% for this EOS P396 machine, and also the part offset. And what that is the 3D buffer space added around the part in millimeters for packing spacing. So this is what I configure then for my machines. And then if I head on over to my materials, I can then add specific parameters for my material, which will then be used in the script. So within here, I simply just have to add one, actually, which is the cost of the material per centimeter cubed. So the average cost in the UK is about 15 pence. So I've put 15 pence in here. And then what this will do is that it will take all of these parameters, and then ultimately what the work will do is that it will calculate two limits: the geometric limit based on the physical dimensions and the volumetric limit based on the thermal density caps. It takes the lower of these two as the effective max parts limit. And I know this sounds a bit confusing, but ultimately I will show you how then it works. So we then have the script actually here in the worker dashboard. So if I go here and I click SLS script, and the way this looks, of course, it's a lot of code, but ultimately what this does is that all the part dimensions and machine parameters are then passed into this worker. And so what then this does is that the engine runs a smart rotation. And so it tests angles in 15-degree increments to find the most space efficient orientation for the part. And so what then it does is then it's able to then calculate the price based on the parameters that you give. And so in here, I'm also able then to manage the margin. So how much margin gets applied. So in this case, it's 50% margin. And I'm able to add a minimum final price per part. So for example, if let's say the minimum price per part that I'm going to charge is £30, and then I have this here, which is really great, is that it says that if the part volume is greater than 40% of the machine volume, then it will force a manual quote. And so you can change this to 40%, 50%, 60%. Really, it's up to you. And so what we'll do is that the system will just automatically flag it. So we have our script, we have the parameters in play, and I'm going to show you now in the quotation form what this looks like with an actual part. So if I go into this quote, what I'll get now is if I go here and then I change this to SLS, you'll see my script. And so first of all, I can determine the part rotation. So if I'm not happy with this orientation, what I can then do is I can click change part rotation. And then if I perhaps wanted to, I guess, maybe make it minus 90 degrees in the Z. And if I maybe wanted it to make it minus 90 degrees in the Y, I just click apply. And if that's the way I want it to be, then ultimately I can then change that later in here. I'd need to then translate this here. And so the way it works is that if I would like to have a custom rotation, or I'm not happy with the orientation that AMFG provides, or the orientation in which it's been calculated by the script, I can just click custom, and then I can do my changes here. I put minus 90 and minus 90 so that it's just mimicked this rotation that we set earlier. And then what that will do is that that will recalculate this price. And so you can see I've reached the minimum threshold, and so it will charge £30 for this. But we can just go back and put this back to 0. And I can go here and then change this back to the original rotation that it was at. And so if I change this back to standard, that means no matter what number I put into these parameters, it won't change anything. And with regards to what the fit status is that it will tell me whether or not this part can fit into my build based on the machine parameters. And then we have the volumetric limit, which then again I already explained, which is based on the thermal density, and then the geometric limit, which is based on physical dimensions. And then the effective max parts is essentially how many of these parts you could fit into a build. And so this is great because just in a matter of seconds, you're able to get details about how many parts you can fit into a build. And also you get the pricing for it. And so if I just change this to like 100, let's see if it changes it. Oh yeah, it's still about £30 for one. And so if I change the script actually, if I say that the minimum price is £1 perhaps. Um, let's see. Now if I go back, I should probably see some actual prices being calculated. So if I click SLS, I should probably see. Oh, there we go. So it costs about £5 and 14 pence. And then I can fit about 239 of these into a build, and it should be safe to print. And so this is how a script works. Of course, if you have more questions, feel free to email us at support@amfg.ai. Otherwise, if you would like this script to be added into your application, or if you would like more details about it, please email us, contact us, and we'll be happy to set up a meeting with you and that we can enable the script in your application. Thank you for your time.